Welcome back. You are listening to the Mari Mukwata show on Slam Media. It is time for our marriage segment. As humans, we yearn to be close to another, to be fully known, yet, despite this, to be unconditionally loved. Intimacy includes physical closeness, and to many, this quickly gets translated to meaning a sexual relationship. Long married couples will often relate that the sexual part of their relationship is only one of many ways they are intimate with each other. To understand intimacy a little bit more, we have marriage and relationship coach Phumelele Sakina Dolamo to tell us more. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Coach Sakina.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And how are you?
Alhamdulillah, all good in yourself. I see you all glassed up.
Yes, I finally got my new glasses. So I can see you properly now.
Awesome. How many fingers?
Three.
All right. When it comes to intimacy, as I mentioned, people always translate it to be a sexual relationship, and that's not really the case. There's more to intimacy than just that. In fact, that is one form of intimacy. Tell us about the other forms of intimacy. What are they?
Okay, obviously, yes, that's the obvious one that comes to mind when people think about intimacy. But there's also emotional intimacy, there's intellectual intimacy, there's spiritual intimacy, and then obviously the physical intimacy. But what basically intimacy is when you have that closeness with a person whereby you can feel, you can bear all, you can be naked without them judging you, you know. So when we look at emotional intimacy, is when you can completely be free with your spouse in terms of your feelings. You, for example, if you are at work and you somebody made you angry, to have that someone to go home to and tell them that, you know what, my colleague today, when they did this and that, they made me feel so angry. I was so angry about these issues. Or when you feel down and depressed, you are able to communicate with your spouse and say, I'm not feeling too good today, you know. So if you don't have emotional intimacy with your spouse, when you're feeling down, you're not able to express yourself, or when you're angry, you're not able to express yourself. So it means that relationship lacks emotional intimacy, or each time you express yourself to your spouse emotionally, they either put you down and say, no, don't feel that way, or they don't value your feelings, or
Or they'll
approve of
say
them in
things.
a way.
Or they'll say
Yes.
things like, "Now, why did you do that? That's why they made you angry."
Yes, you know, so that breaks, you know, the emotional intimacy with your spouse.
Mm-hmm. And what about you spoke about the emotional intimacy and the physical intimacy.
Oh yes, when we speak about now, but we can speak about intellectual intimacy. So now intellectual intimacy is when you are able to be open to your spouse about your thoughts, about your ideas, without them judging you and putting you down. You know, for example, your opinions about the political state in our country. When you're in with your spouse, are you okay with having opposing ideas? You know, that's intellectual intimacy. If your spouse feels that they are pro Zuma and you are against Zuma, you should be able to um, articulate yourself with your spouse without them judging you and saying, no, don't favor Zuma because they are this. So they should accept, oh, okay, you are pro Zuma because of this, or you are against Zuma because of that. You know, when you analyze things, you know, are they okay with the way you analyze things? Do they value the way you analyze things, or they feel that, no, you're not intelligent enough to analyze things? So that's why some spouse will tell you that I no longer speak to my husband or wife because because each time I share an idea with them, they shoot me down. It means they don't value your intellectual property. And
Mm-hmm.
then we can also look at spiritual intimacy. Many people think about religious rituals, and we do a lot of religious rituals together, but we don't communicate as spouses as where are you spiritually, do you need help, because it's that thing that if I communicate to my spouse that perhaps I'm struggling to wake up for tahajjud, and then your spouse puts you down and feels that, okay, maybe you're not spiritual enough, that's why you cannot wake up for tahajjud, or you battle maybe to pray your dhuhr salah because you are constantly working, then if you feel you cannot be honest about your spirituality to your spouses, then you lack that spiritual closeness to your spouse. And you can solve this by doing spiritual things together. Then you decide, no, when it comes to Fajr Salah, I'll help you out and we'll pray Fajr Salah together. And after Fajr Salah, we can decide to meditate together. Or you can take a trip together. You say, let's take a spiritual trip together. We go for Umrah
Sakina,
together.
just to stop you right there, your camera is out of focus.
Hmm, see, is it good
Okay,
now?
yeah. Yes, that's better.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, take
So
Umrah.
you can decide, yes, for us, for example, Muslims, we have Umrah, we have Hajj. So you can decide that you want to do spiritual things together. And then the spiritual retreats, you and your spouse can go for spiritual retreats together. So there's a lot that you can do to break that barrier of judging each other over your spirituality and experience spirituality together so that you have that closeness to each other.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of the challenges that couples face that creates a barrier in their intimate relationship?
Okay, as I've mentioned before, it's that judgment, not seeing the value in the other person, you don't see the value in their ideas, you don't see the value in the way they live their life, you don't see value in the way they interact with you or the activities that they hold close to them, because as well, respect is part of intimacy, when you respect your spouse's habits, you respect your spouse's ideas and the way they engage with things, the way they see the world, that's what creates intimacy. So when you don't have that understanding, it's one of the things that break intimacy. You don't need to see things the same way, but you can value that the person does not see things the way that you see them.
Mm-hmm. Now, what happens if the relationship is just a physically intimate one? I mean, is there even a point to be in such a relationship?
It will just mainly mean that your relationship is only about physical intimacy and not about spiritual intimacy or intellectual intimacy or emotional intimacy. That's exactly what the relation would mean. But the dangers of that is that as human beings, we all have a need for our points to be touched. We need to engage with people on an intellectual level. We need to engage with people on an emotional level, So if you decide that your relationship will only focus on one, ultimately you will not be completely happy because all the other needs are not met.
Mm-hmm. And then it comes down to the love languages as well, understanding your partner's love language. So in order to understand their intimate needs as well. Is it would one person fall more inclined to being more emotionally intimate, or more physically intimate, or more intellectually intimate, or can they? Can we all have that, but then also be inclined to having one a little bit more than the others?
No, it's very much possible because if you know, as human beings, you don't wake up every day feeling the same way. You know, some days you need more emotional intimacy, some days you need more intellectual intimacy. Let's say you are a CEO of a company and you're currently working on an intense project. You are most likely to be ignoring all other fears and just want to focus on one project and make it a success. So you might need your spouse to support you intellectually. You want to bounce off ideas. You want to know if they think this idea will make the project a success or not. So obviously, some days you will need more intellectual support. Some days you will need emotional support. You might be going through something, and that will need for your spouse to be emotionally there for you. So it varies from a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. And what can couples do to keep the flame alive, especially after being married for so long and now you just be like, Ish, yeah, no, I'm done with that person. We can't even have a proper conversation together. So, yeah.
I think the one of the mistakes that we do in our marriages and our relationships with anyone, it can be our friends, our family, is that we give up too easily. When we come across a wall or an obstacle, we like, no, I give up. It's not working out. You know, the most important thing in relationships is continuously try to get there. You know, it's about the journey, not just the destination. You know, how you walk the journey. So you have to continuously be trying to be intimate with your spouse in all spheres. So you can decide we'll wash the car together instead of just letting your spouse wash the car by themselves. You can decide every Saturday we go for coffee together and we speak about whatever. You can decide to do chores together, and things that we'll be speaking about in the past. You know, kindness, basic kindness, forgiveness. You know, if your spouse forgot to wash the dishes, there's no need to blow it up into something big. You know,
But it
so
is
those
something
issues.
big. Yes.
It really isn't, compared to other things in the relationship, things such as trust, commitment, really. Some things you can honestly, or if it's something that happens only once in a while, you can let it slide, because it's not a big issue in the relationship. So you have to continuously work at it. And when you come across an obstacle, don't just feel, okay, no, I'm turning away from here. You constantly have to work at it. you know that's how you build a long lasting and quality marriage with your spouse. But when you give up, that's when you start now resenting your spouse because the other one is no longer putting their energy into the relationship.
Yeah, for somebody whose love language is acts of service, not washing the dishes would be a big deal. But anyway, we're going to leave it there and focus on bigger fish to fry. That's all the time that we have, unfortunately. Please share your social media handles and contact details with our viewers and listeners.
I'm on Facebook, Phumelele Sakina Dolamo. I'm on Instagram, Phumelele Sakina, and I changed my Twitter handle to @PhumiTranquil. So that's my new Twitter handle. So don't look for the old one. It's @PhumiTranquil. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you once again and have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Salam Media. Wa alaikum salam.
Right, that was Coach Sakina Phumelele Dolamo talking to us about non-sexual intimacy and its importance in a marriage, sharing with us physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, intellectual, as well as spiritual intimacy. Learn about the different types of intimacy that you can get in a relationship because it's not just about physical and sexual intimacy. Right, it is 11:46. You are listening to the Mari Mokonda Show on Salam Media. We will be right back after the break.